for municipal schools across Maharashtra on their journey to state and national victory. We will also be donating a share of our funds to the Association of the Welfare for the Mentally Handicapped that supports India's differently able talent pool at several levels, including the Special Olympics. Today's event, Coach to Coach, is one of Mumbai's first forums which brings together experts from across the field of sport to discuss their opinions on the theme for today, the journey of a sportsman. The theme not only seeks to encourage each member of our audience to discover the sportsman in themselves, but moreover aims at facilitating growth in their learning curve towards personal success. I now hand over to a fellow team member to introduce our speakers. Thank you.
So first I would like to start off by explaining the structure of today's event. Each speaker will give a 15-minute talk, which will be followed by a 5-minute question and answer session on that talk. So our first speaker for the day is Mr. Rehan Porcha. He is a 5-time national swimmer and Arjuna awardee recipient and has been swimming since he was 7 years of age. He has been a frequent gold medal winner at the Malaysian, Hong Kong and Singapore Open. The Eklavya awardee currently holds 3 national records. Rehan has grown up in the world of sport, which goes to say that he will have many inspiring stories and words of wisdom to share to budding sportsmen and sportswomen in the audience. May I please invite on stage Mr. Rehan Porcha to do this talk.
A very good morning to everyone present here. They say that the greatest adventure you can have is to live the life of your dreams. And I am doing so today through your event, Moment of Joy, have to thank the Dhirubhai Ambani International School, parents, kids here, sportsmen, and all my listeners for the opportunity to do so. And to actually continue living my adventure and my dream, even today. I have been told that I have about 15 minutes to speak. When I do a corporate talk or when I do a motivational talk, they tell me I have to speak for 45 minutes to an hour. And I have a very limited time, so I'm trying to go and club in everything that I feel in terms of lessons I have learned from my lifetime in sport, which continues to this date with y'all, and hopefully will try to inspire y'all, motivate y'all, and most importantly try to get y'all to relate to what I'm saying and start believing that if I, as a 7-year-old, could have set goals and dreams for myself, and over 20 years in sport achieved all of them, and I continue to set these goals and dreams even today through my second sport now, which is golf, which I'll tell you about a little later. It is possible to do so. And if the kids in the sport, my audience here, if sportsmen here start believing that if Rehan can do it, I can, my time here will be well spent, right? So these are I have put down 7 of the lessons I have learned from my lifetime in sport. I won't go through them right away. So the first one is find your calling. I'm going to tell you my story, talk to you about my journey and the lessons I learned along the way. So as a kid, I tried my hand like most kids do at many sports. I used to do a little bit of dance, I used to do a little bit of cricket and a little bit of swimming. And then one fine day my dad told me that, look, you've got to choose one sport because we can't be moving from one venue to another. And I said dance to my dad because honestly, who wouldn't choose, the warmth, the spotlight on stage over freezing cold water in the pool, which 7-year-old kid would want to go and, freeze every morning. So I chose dance, and on that day, as it happened, I landed up at practice. And my dance instructor said that today is going to be the first day of partner dance. So he told me you've got to choose a girl from your class, and this girl is going to be your partner for the next 2 months. Now the thought of having a girl's arms wrapped around me as a 7-year-old, an extremely shy 7-year-old, was terrifying. So I said, okay sir, and I moved out the back of the class. As I walked out of the door, went to my dad in the parking and said, Dad, I want to swim. Okay? And I mean, like they say, behind every successful man is a woman, right? So that's how I chose swimming initially. At 8, I started competitive swimming. So this pool here, right here at Khar Gymkhana, we used to have galas here, we used to swim at the Otters Club, and regular meets around Bombay where I kept swimming. And initially, I was very poor, like most athletes are when they start off. So my first race, I was second last. And I couldn't handle that because I have a huge ego when it comes to sport. And I decided at that point that I love to swim because I took up the sport and I knew I did it well. And I also decided more than loving to swim, I love to win and the joy of setting a target and then trying to achieve it and being competitive about it. And it is at that point when I sort of took a serious call that this is what I want to do and I want to really make a go of it. The kids here will understand this also, that a huge part of me choosing swimming was as an athlete at school. You've got sports days where you have your high jump, long jump, you have your 100 meters. You know, a couple of events that we did in St. Mary's where I studied in Bombay. I would be dead last every single time. So I would never make it to the next round. And this would just shatter my self-confidence completely. Because the measure of an athlete, 15, 20 years ago, God, I sound old now, but the measure of an athlete at that point was how fast he is on the playground, right? And that shattered my confidence. So I decided at that young age that I have to find something for myself that I can do well. And I'm going to be the best at it. And I'm going to be so good that I'll be a better swimmer than any other athlete that ever came out of St. Mary's, just my school. So at that, and lastly, the way I found or chose that this was going to be my calling is not just chasing success, but realizing that I enjoy the hard days and I enjoy the hard work. Because many people say success is about setting a goal and then chasing it and finding happiness through it. I don't agree. I think success and finding your calling to do what you really want to do is if you can stand there and see yourself working those hour after hour and going through the hard times and still enjoying it. I think that really is when you can decide that you've actually found your calling. So, like I said, I kept competing, and then from second last I went to second, and I started winning at club level in Bombay. Up to a point wherein I was 11 years old and I was racing in Pune, the national championships. I picked up my first national medals. And at the age of 11, I was national champion. And at the age of 12, I failed to qualify for the nationals. So from being at the top of my sport 1 year, I had to complete it the next. And as a kid, I really didn't know how to control that, how to deal with those emotions. And normally when things go wrong, we don't look inward, we tend to look outward and see what's wrong. So at that particular nationals that I went to for relaying, the best swimmers of the country came from Bangalore. So I decided I want to move to Bangalore. I went up to my dad, like I was telling him I want to go to the neighbor's house. I said, Dad, let's move to Bangalore. And in a week, we were in Bangalore. We shut down shop, shut down business in Bombay. And my mom, dad and I were in Bangalore. We set up home there. We had already done the groundwork a week before. And got us set up in the rented apartment, and I joined a school there in the 8th standard. And I moved towards setting my next immediate goal, which was regaining what I had lost through the age of 12. And I trained for 8 months, really, really hard. And through those 8 months, I clearly remember, because we always remember the bad times of our childhood, where I was very lonely in school because I had no friends, and I was too shy to make friends. And in the pool, I was so hardworking that didn't really go down well with the seniors in my team. So I was messed around with in the pool. And I think the one thing that kept me grounded and really made me feel like all this does not matter was the strength that I knew I had my calling, and I knew why I was here in Bangalore. And that just overtook or, had power over all the negative that I was going through at that young age. At 13, I was national champion again and continued to do so at the age of 14, 15, and 16. So now at 16, when I raced the national championships, I became the fastest 200-meter butterflyer in the country of any age group. So at that point, as a 16-year-old, and I'm sure a lot of you relate to this, I was having a lot of fun with my sport. I was at the top of my sport in India. I was competing, representing India abroad, and had national championships. The press would basically call a race before I was done. So when the lineup was given on the starting block, I would stand there, and half an hour before my race, the press was taking my interview, as if I had already won, and asking me questions like, how does it feel to win this race? And I said, I've not even started. And halfway through the race, I could see photographers taking my photo, halfway through a race. So I can only imagine how people on either side of me racing actually felt. But that is the sort of success I enjoyed. And therefore, coach came up to my parents and my coach, another coach, and said, look, Rehan is this fast. Why doesn't he qualify for the Olympics? Now, the Olympics for any athlete is the ultimate destination. I mean, who wouldn't want to be one of close to 100 athletes from a country of 1.2 billion, good enough to represent, his flag at the Olympics? And so this was my dream always as a child, but not my immediate dream as a 16-year-old, because I was having a good time already. But I decided that, okay, if this is a challenge and it's my dream, I'm going to make it so. And I'm going to give this a shot. I had about a year and a half to prepare for the Athens Olympics in 2004. And my timing, and I don't know how many sportsmen here work with a stopwatch, but my timing in the 200-meter butterfly was 2 minutes and 9 seconds. The qualifying time for the same event at the Olympics was 2 minutes and 4 seconds. So I basically had 5 seconds to cut in a span of 8 months, which is ridiculously hard and quite impossible. But I decided I would give this a shot. We went to Australia and I started training. And I got better and better. So I went from 2 minutes and 9 to 2 minutes and 7 seconds and then 2 minutes and 6 seconds. At which point I landed up at this Malaysian Open Championship, and I had about a second and a half to go, and this was my last meet, my last possible chance to qualify for the Athens Olympics, where I'm possibly going to realize an athlete's biggest dream at the age of 16. And I was so young and I was so ill-equipped mentally that I failed. I finished the race, I looked at the timing display and I went slow. I went back to 2 minutes and 9 seconds, because just before the race, I got thoughts in my mind like, what if I fail? What are my parents going to say? What are my coaches going to say? What are my friends going to say back home? And I cared too much about what everybody else thought that had really nothing to do with the effort me and my team put into my career for those 10 years, more than what the self-belief I had. So I knew I was going to fail, and so I did. I came back home and I decided I wanted to hang up my boots. There was not going to be any more swimming. I hated the sight of the water or even the thought of swimming. And everybody around me said, what don't you have that, you have everything as a 16-year-old, and you've got your whole sporting career ahead of you. So why give up? I said, no, just like you said, I've achieved so much, why should I go anymore? And I was so broken that I decided I will not swim. Took a month off, and in a month I missed the water, I missed the training, and I missed being part again of having to set a dream and be competitive at something. So I started again. I changed schools to another swim center where I clearly remember he's still the national coach, Mr. Pradeep Kumar. He was walking, doing laps around the pool. I went up to him at 5:30 in the morning, and he said, Rehan, you're very good. What more do you want from my team and my program? And I said, for the last month, I've been following the Athens Olympics. I watched the opening ceremony on television, and I watched some of our country's best athletes do that victory lap when India's name was called out, and I tried. I tried because I so badly wanted to be there. I told him, if you work with me for 4 years, I'll make sure I'm an Olympian and I'll make you one as well. I'll take you there as my coach. So he said, fine, if that's your challenge, let's do it. And we started working over the next 3 years as a pattern, and as a bad pattern. What I would do is I would race 5 events at the national championships. I would win 4 golds. I would break 4 national records, and on the last day I would have the 200 butterfly. The event I failed at. And I would do so badly that I would lose my national championship and it would hurt my points for the year. So every time I raced, this particular event ended up being a little demon that just messed me up, because I was reminded of failure and what I did wrong 4 years ago. So I went from the age of 16 to the age of 19, all the way till 2007, exactly like this. Whether I raced in India or I raced abroad, this was the pattern. Everything else was great because I worked hard, and this one event would hold me back. Up to a point in 2007 where my coach and I were at the World Championships in Melbourne, and just before the race, I went up to him and I asked him, "Sir, what's the plan?" So he said, "Listen, just go and mess up." So I said, "What?" And he said, "No, you've been messing around with this race for the last 3 years. Go and fail one more time. How does it matter? But promise me that you're just going to have fun at it. Go have fun, and if you go slower timing, how does it matter? You think you're a failure at this event, everybody else expects you to fail at this event. You've done great already at the swim meet, because I'd already swum 4 events and done well again. But it won't matter, just go and have fun." I tied him in the pool and I decided, okay, I'm going to have fun. I relaxed out. I touched the wall, looked at the touchpad, and I had done the same time as the qualifying time for the 2004 Olympics, which was 2 minutes and 4 seconds. Now, unfortunately for me, the world swimming body had made the new qualifying time for the Beijing Olympics 3 seconds faster. So they had gone from 2 minutes and 4 seconds all the way to 2 minutes and 1 second. Now, I knew this before I raced, and because it was only responsible to know what my targets were. But at that point, as a 18-year-old, I realized on that day I was so relieved, because I realized that if you set some sort of target, sometimes you achieve success instantly, and sometimes it takes a lot of time. But if you do stick through it, and I realized that I stuck through, the bad, and just kept racing that event no matter what, over and over again. Eventually, I got there. But I got to a timing I wanted to do at some point in my career. We went back home, and you can just get this slide up. So this is the part of it. That's enough. I like to show off a little about my career. This was at me at 16 doing good things in sport. And anyway, coming back, I had 8 months to go. We were in 2008 for the Beijing Olympics, and I decided that I'm going to try again. My coach said that you've got 8 months. If you fail at qualifying for the Beijing Olympics, chances are that you're going to quit swimming, because nobody's going to be stupid enough to try for another 4 years. That's 12 years of wasted time. Don't bother. And therefore, because this could possibly be the last 8 months of what has been a successful 18-year career, enjoy it. And I remember what he said to me back in 2007 when I raced well at that World Championships, and we put our heads down and we continued to work. And landed up there again at 3 months out of qualifying cutoff. I raced the Malaysian Open again, and I went from 204 to 203. I had another 2 chances. I raced in Singapore, and I went from 203 to 202. And I raced again in India, where I missed the qualifying time by half a second. And it's at that point that I felt that I was saturated, and there was no quicker that I could possibly go. So I was on a Skype call with a friend from America, Amkur, who had already qualified. And then I had already qualified for the Olympics. And I told him the same thing. I said, Amkur, no matter what I do, I just can't seem to crack this qualifying mark. I mean, I've done everything else that I set my mind to in my career, but this is the one thing that just keeps holding me back. So he said the exact same thing my coach said. He said, why don't you just decide to have fun, because this is possibly going to be the last 20 days of your entire swimming career. Put my head down and work. He told me, you do this and trust me, you will be with me at Beijing. So we worked, we got to the last possible qualifier, the Australian Open. And I was racing against New Zealand's fastest swimmer. And my job in that race was to basically just hang on to him for as long as I possibly could. Because he went on to race the final 8 at the Olympics at Beijing. So he was that fast. And so if I decided, if I hold on to this guy for as long as I can possibly make this qualifying time. He ended up being my pace setter, basically. And I got onto the blocks to race that last qualifier. Every single negative thought that went through my mind 4 years ago at the Malaysian Open came back to me. What if I fail? Now I've done another 4 years. So more people are going to make fun of me. And more people are going to say, oh, what an idiot to keep trying, to just should have just been happy with the success he had back home. And it's at that point that it's like a little switch that went off in my head that said that, like your event says today, that if I've worked so hard, and it's a tough sport, I mean any sport in this country is hard. If I work hard and you're dealing with your climate and conditions that you don't have when you play golf necessarily, and it's just so cold and so hard, why would I waste my last race by not finding my joy in this moment? And that's the last thought I had before I went into the race. We raced 200 meters. I felt good in the race, but not great, because I was nervous, I was a little tight. And when I touched the wall, I was so scared of looking at the timing display to see if I had actually clocked this 2 minutes and 1 second, that my eyes went to the gallery, where my dad and my coach were sitting, to see their reaction. And I looked at them and they were like going crazy in the stands, so I realized I had qualified at that point. Okay, this is the part where my audience wakes up and claps. Thank you. I'm going to get my claps irrespective of whether you fast forward 8 weeks later, I'm standing.
So what was the timing?
So I did 0.3 of a second faster than the qualifying time, and I'm I'm standing there 8 weeks later as part of 62 Indians, good enough to represent his flag out of a population of 1.1 or 1.2 billion people. You're standing outside, so at the Olympics, you don't get to watch the opening ceremony as an athlete. You have to stand out in your sherwani and just sweat and sweat. And the whole Olympic ceremony is going on because they call the athletes parade after all that is done. So you're waiting out, but honestly, I didn't care for that. I just was so happy I was there. I'm standing there, and all I could see is 20 yards down in front of me, the Indian flag. Because there are turbans, there are all these heads, and then there's your Indian flag. The country's name is called out, and you walk out onto the stadium and you take a lap, you take a victory lap. And sure enough, I got out, we took a ride, and on my right side was Ankur, boy I had started with, and he told me, look, we're here. I told you we'll be here. And on my left, sure enough, was my coach. And I looked at my coach and I said, sir, look, we're here. I told you we'd be here and we're here. And we did that lap for about 3 minutes. And through that lap, all the hard times through my career, the sacrifices, the good times, the bad times, moving state, leaving family, all that, felt absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth it. And I have done the talk, a longer version of it, possibly close to 30 or 40 times over the last 4 years. And every time I think about this moment, I get goosebumps. And it is these very goosebumps that keep me working as a sportsman today. I went on to swim for another 2 years after the Olympics, broke a couple of more national records, won a few more international medals, and at the end of this career, I was honored with the Arjuna Award. And at that point, I felt I had, contributed enough to my career. Fast learners, to be an oversized ego. And yes, so I'll take you through that very quickly. That was a photo shoot for the Hindu Sports Star. So those two on the extreme right were Best Athlete trophies in 2002 and 2007 at the National Games. That's my Arjuna Award at the bottom right. And one more. And that's my coach Pradeep sir, who was with me at the Olympics, and that's a very successful quartet. The relay team that won a lot internationally, the four of us, and that's me. That's a photo at Beijing. So one more slide. Like I said, I retired at the age of 26, and for a whole month after retirement, I went into major depression. That's fine. I went into major depression because you take an athlete and you take sport away from an athlete, and he's basically left with a massive void. There is a huge emptiness that cannot be filled by anything else other than sport, and I felt that. And to fill that void, I started golf. I chanced upon it, and it happened to me by luck. And today I am competing at golf. I'm 4 years to it. I'm winning at club level, and I have sights and goals of being as successful in my second sport as I was in the first. Those are that's me when I started my career at 7. That extremely shy 7-year-old, and that's me at the end of my career. And a couple of photo shoots. And that last slide there is me running workshops. In fact, right here, my first workshop at the CCI pool. And that's one way in which I get to stay in touch with swimmers around the country, and my first love and first sport, which is swimming. And that quote there says, in my dreams I haven't got this far. So Baba Watson is a professional golfer. He won a major championship. The reporter asked him, Baba, what are your dreams? And he said, I'm living my dream. I haven't got this far even in my dreams. And I can say here today with absolute positivity that today I am living my dream. How many of you have read this book called Jonathan Livingston Seagull? So, okay, I think a lot more of you should read this book, especially the kids. In that book, it's about a seagull, and his mother asked him, his name is John, so his mother asked him, why John, why can't you be like the rest of the flock? Why can't you leave the loaf lying to the albatross and the pelican? And you're all bone and feathers, why don't you eat? And John says this to his mother, he says, I don't care if I'm all bone and feathers, I just want to see what I can do in the air and what I can't. And I think all of you here today, including myself, that's all I want to do in my life. I want to see how far I can get and how good I can get. And I'm completely aware that there are struggles. Things may not work out as you'd like. But if you set a goal, like I did when I was 7-year-old, and you decide that no matter what, I'm going to get there. If you are successful, fantastic. If you are not, but you give it your all, you can go to sleep at night knowing that you set that goal and you made an honest effort. So going back, the little lessons that I learned, the first one was finding your calling. The second one was staying the course through the ups and downs, prioritizing and sacrificing for your goal. Timing is key, where as a 16-year-old ill-equipped, I wasn't ready, I wasn't mature enough, but then as a 21-year-old, I was. And the fifth one I think is the most important. As you think, so it becomes. I'm a huge believer in positive visualization. I have had times when my mom has cleared places on my trophy cabinet 1 week before I went to the tournament and told me very arrogantly that I'm leaving place because you're going to go to this tournament and bring back this trophy, right? So it's absolutely placed there for it. And that's how I've always attacked my goals and my dreams. And the last one is success is never final and learning never ends. I'm 31 and I'm playing a second sport here. I believe that there is so much more success in store for me as there will be for you all. And I continue to learn from the mistakes and the good that my life has brought me today. A little earlier, I talked about how I'm living my dream today. I see a lot of smiling faces in the audience. When I talked about the Olympics, I saw a couple of kids' faces light up, and that's why I'm here, to make people in the audience feel that these goals and dreams are achievable, what Rehan did is, and more than what Rehan did. So if my time here has been spent where even 2 people from my entire audience go and play a better squash match today, or have a little more self-belief in them, and most importantly, make a decision that irrespective of what people around you say to you, irrespective of what people around you think, you've got to do what you feel is right, and you've got to make decisions for yourself. I mean, I talk to corporates and I tell them the same thing, and I have questions like, but how do you know that you wouldn't have been better in golf if you had started at 7 at golf instead of swimming? And I said, I loved swimming the day I swam. I absolutely fell in love with the sound that the water made when I put my arm into the water. And that's why I swim. Today when I'm practicing at the golf course, and I'm going to end with this because I think I'm time up, I practice crazy hours. And a lot of you will think this is crazy, but the golf course is empty more often than not. So it's me and it's my caddy at the golf course. And if I've played a good round of 18 holes, and I'm walking onto that 18th final hole, I start giving commentary to myself and my caddy. And what I say to him is, I start talking as if I'm live on Star Sports. And the commentator is saying that's Rehan Poncha, and he's walking on the final hole at the US Open. And he is leading the pack. And I'm saying this, and my caddy is looking at me and thinking I'm absolutely nuts. And then I go one step further and I take my cap off and I'm tipping my cap to an audience that is not even there. It's just an empty course, and I'm saying thank you to everybody around me because I believe I've played so well. And what I'm doing basically is I am trying to visualize actually being there in that moment. I'm putting in the hard work, I'm setting that goal. If I don't get there, at least I'll know that I've given it a shot. And if I do, I think there are about 100 people in this audience. All 100 people are going to one day write to me and say, look, you did it, you went there and you did it, and we're going to do it as well. Okay, thank you. The last quote I'd like to end with is, success is not the key to happiness. Happiness is the key to success. Love what you do, and you will be successful. That picture was the first picture I got taken of me when I started golf. That little patch on my back was stitched on. It's my name, it's the Olympic rings and the Indian flag. A lot of professional golfers, when I walk onto the golf course with this bag, think I'm very arrogant. Because they say, how you've not earned your rings in golf, how dare you do this? Because they work 20 years and they finally earn their rings, or they earn their national flag on their bag. But there's a pattern here that I can see that's emerging, is I really don't care what people think about me. And that patch over there is to remind me on a bad day. Remind me on a bad day of who I am and what I can do in the worst circumstances. So if there are people in the audience here who are having a bad time in life, the best one thing to do is go back in your mind to a time when you were super low and you felt life couldn't get any harder, and then look at yourself now, you're dressed up, you're looking fancy and you're smiling, right? So if y'all could do it once and I could do it several times, y'all can do it over and over again, till maybe someday you're standing attempting to inspire little kids and hopefully being successful. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
We'll now be having a 5-minute question and answer session. So if anyone has any questions for Mr. Poncha, please feel free to ask them.
Hi, that was really inspirational.
Thank you.
I'm sure even for us. So, through your downs, what was the single most important thought in your mind that kept you going? And what was it if you had an inspiration?
I think that, like I said when I ended my talk, I would always go back to success in my career. So I was successful at 11 and I was not so successful at 12. I would go back in my mind. We've got a trophy wall that is now, with God's grace, quite full. So I had a small trophy wall at home when I was 11, and I would walk past it and look at it and remind myself of who I was. Luckily for me, it was 1 year back. But even today, when I have a bad day at the golf course, and people think I'm crazy, to have started a second spot, because everybody knows how hard it is to be at the top in one spot and having, get to start at the bottom again. So I have so many bad days today, and then I have a few good days where I end up winning at a club tournament. But through those bad days is what I do. I always look back at my success, no matter how big or small it is, and remind myself that I have been this person at some point in my career. And so this is a lesson I learned when I was 12 years old, and I'm still using the same lesson when I'm 31.
Hi, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Just want to know how did you balance your sports and your studies?
Okay, so I was first of all very lucky to be part of a school in Bombay which completely supported me in terms of attendance, and leave. So I was studying at St. Mary's from the first standard all the way to the 8th, and I was allowed to come into class 2 periods late because I had morning practice. And on a day I was very tired, I was traveling for a tournament, I was given off. And the only deal was that I had to make sure my grades were okay. I went to Bangalore at the St. Joseph School, and they also supported me tremendously. And in college, my college attendance was, I think, 2%. So I would go into college just to collect notes or to meet the HODs, to find out when the exams were. And the chairman of my college, the Jain College in Bangalore, would look at me and say, "Arey, why do you go home? It's good." This is literally his reaction. But having said that, I think it's very important today, because in India, to be successful at sport is already hard. It's hard as it is. So if you and your team, if for an individual sport like squash or like swimming or like golf, is basically your coach, your physio, your mental coach, and your parents, and your closest family. And it's very important that all their support is also balanced with support from your school or your college. Now I'm speaking to a school here today. So I'm not sure if there are people here who make those decisions, but it is extremely important that when you see a child who is not wasting his time at home, he is either in a swimming pool, or he's at a squash court, or he's on a cricket pitch, or whatever sport he's at, if you see that he is committing time and loves what he's doing and actually has a goal, I would say support him 100%. I'm not saying let him get away with 1% attendance through the year, because study is important. And I had to, keep my grades up, if not for my faculty, but for my dad. My dad said, if you fail, you're not going to get to swim, no matter how good you are. So study is always important, but I think it has to be balanced out by support from your academic institution. Otherwise, it's very, very difficult. In fact, I did engineering in my 12th. I did physics, chemistry, maths, electronics, the combination that would allow me to do engineering. And then in 2003, I took a call that I'm not going to do engineering, I'm going to do arts. So I did psychology and journalism, which was an easier course. So I could try and qualify for Athens, and then I failed at Athens. So you can imagine how bad I felt that I'm possibly given away a huge academic career as well, right? But my college stayed strong with me through it. And said, we do another 4 years, do your masters, and we'll still, support you. So and I say that without the support of my colleges and my schools, I wouldn't have got this far, apart from my coaches.
Why I ask you is that my son is in 11th now.
Right.
He too wanted physics, chemistry, math.
Right.
So I said, if you take that,
right.
it was cautious.
Do I not look smart to you? Sorry.
My belief is,
yes.
Because I told him to drop the school for 2 years.
Right.
Take a go.
Right.
If it works out, it works out.
Right.
If it doesn't, you haven't lost much.
Right.
You will hardly get
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
But from your experience, yes, if you are serious into sports,
right,
does studies matter?
I saw a little meme, is what you call them, right? On WhatsApp today, talking about how the CEO of Infosys makes 16 crores in a year and Virat Kohli makes 17 crores. So I'm not saying that money is, the be all or end all of sport, but today, more and more, I see many successful sportsmen, money-wise also, career-wise also, be way more successful in their field than people who slog and at academic stuff. Having said that, I have trained with little kids, 13-year-olds in Dubai, where I practice my golf, who have done exactly this. They've taken 3 years off from school to give sport a chance. I never had the foresight, nor did my parents have, to actually do that. But in retrospect, maybe I would have done that, and maybe I would have been even better at my swimming if I had completely taken off the pressure of sport. So I suggest, my advice is, I don't know how valuable it is to you, but if you have an option, or if you're obviously the sort of supportive dad that would be okay with letting your son take 3 years off from education and give him a chance to excel at sport, I think we should go ahead and do that, irrespective of the 17 crores.
We have to move on to the next speaker. We can take questions.
One last one.
Maybe just give him one question. Maybe one last one. Thank you.
Thank you, Rayan. Because of you, I am asking you.
No, thank you.
I have some questions. One, how much you believe is the God-given talent in you? See, your body structure is medium. Generally, it gives an impression. International swimmer is tall.
Absolutely.
He gets the benefit. You are medium build.
Right.
So is it a God gift? Because this is very important. A worker, laborer, he will be also working physically for 12 hours, but he cannot reach the heights.
Right.
Now, how many hours in the peak period you were working in swimming? One.
Right. Not too many people here know that I had 2 conditions through my swimming career. Now that we talk about my physique, I was an asthmatic, I still am, and I had an allergy to chlorine. Okay, so through my career, I would completely lock up, my throat would lock up and just spasm, and my breathing capacity was 40% of what Michael Phelps had, for example, or any other swimmer in India had. But I also believe that I was gifted. You can call it grace, you can call it blessings, God's gift. I believe I had a certain amount of talent that was there. And I also know that I raced against boys from India and abroad who were way more talented than I am. But what I feel, and when I mentor little kids today, is I tell them, everybody's got some amount of talent. And you're possibly not at the perfect spot. I honestly feel if I had started golf when I was 7, I would have been even more successful as I am. Because I picked up and I'm doing so well in 4 years. But I feel I was getting some amount of talent. But you can never get to your goals with just talent. There have been immensely talented kids who have raced with me and have done well for 3 or 4 years and then just gone by the wayside. Because I always ended up working harder than everybody else in the pool. So you do need talent, and it's important talent scout and decide which sport is good for your body, your physique. But if I decided I'm going to swim and I knew this is my talent, I also knew that without hard work and a lot of it, I'm never going to make it. And I've seen, like I said, kids who were so talented and never did anything, they see success for 3 or 4 years and they're done. Because they don't have the ability to working hard. Success comes to them very quickly because of that talent. But to sustain effort through a period of 10 or 15 years, it cannot happen without talent and hard work. And I think the latter is more important.
Rehan, your journey has been great.
Thank you.
But tell me one thing. Financially, how you feel? Are you a happy man with this sport?
With swimming?
Yes.
I think that swimming financially is in a way better place than it was 4 or 5 years ago. After retiring from swimming, I've just signed an endorsement with Speedo, not being a swimmer today. So times are changing, like I said, not 17 crores though for me, but sportsmen are being respected and are being looked to by brands a lot more than they were 10 years ago. So this is a good time for young athletes today. You show a little success internationally, you go up and win an Olympic gold medal and a medal and you're made for life. But even at a national level and further, it helps with scholarships abroad. And there are so many things that sport does for you, which is why I feel you should take sport.
See, in India, in the press, we often read sad stories of the Olympians.
Right.
How they are on footpath, or they cannot be really expensive,
Right.
except for few of the sports like cricket.
Right.
So So that is why I'm asking you, sports like swimming, running, all these, they have a career which can back you when you are
while you're competing. Yes. No, I think so. I think that if there was a swimmer who came up to me and said, should we swim? I say yes, swim. I'll be very honest with you, and this is the last question I'll be able to answer, is that I am as successful. I work 10 days in a month and I play golf for 20. You know, but I do as well as somebody who's working a whole month does. I know this because, and I do this, and I have this success because I committed 20 years to my sport without really thinking of so many risks that you're talking about. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. We'll be giving you a gift.
Our second speaker for the day is Mr. Heath Matthews. He is the head of the Rehabilitation and Sports Medicine Department at the Reliance Foundation Hospital. You can also find his name in the Times of India and the Hindustan Times, where he frequently writes columns. We are more than honored to have the man who played a part in India receiving its first Olympic gold medal at Beijing to be here with us and share his vivid experiences. May I please invite on stage Mr. Heath Matthews.
Can you hear me if I talk with this? Yeah, good, fantastic. Thanks very much for having me. Moment of joy, guys, really happy to be here. I've got a presentation. I'll try and shoot through it fairly quickly because there's a bit of content in there and a lot of it is probably a little bit too waffly. So I might skip over a little bit as we go, but I just want to give you some core ideas just to take home and sort of work on. And I'm really happy to hear everything that Raynan said because part of the mental side of it I really want to touch on. I think that it's critical that you have that right mental approach if you want to be successful. So Raynan's example, the whole time that he's standing up here, everything he's saying, I'm getting a neck injury, just nodding yes, 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 right? Because his attitude is 100% correct. Right, so this is just, you can't see what's written here. There's some simple little things here, little cute little things like a 1% drop in hydration. Your body will tell you that has happened and you will get thirsty. So that's how important water is. There's another little stat here that says your brain uses 33% of the energy in your body to function. This little area that constitutes 2% of your entire mass takes 33% of the energy. That's how important your brain is. So when everybody says eat right, fuel your body correctly, there's a very, very, very big reason, not only physical, but mental, right? If you're not giving enough food to your brain, you can't make the right decisions. You're going to make mistakes in critical times. Some other really interesting stats that I liked over there were the amount of water in our body. It constitutes 98% of our blood, 75% of our muscle mass, and 98% of our blood and 75% of our muscles is water. So hydration is key. We live in a country with very high temperatures and we sweat a lot, right? So if you want to know why sometimes in the latter half of competition you might start flagging off, it's because your hydration levels are dropping. That 1% has become 1.1%. Your body's going into a state where it can't manage that high level of competition that you want it to, and you just need a small dip, right? We don't lose by big distances in sport. We lose by immeasurable margins. Okay, those immeasurable margins we need to try and make sure we have as many checkpoints in place to make sure that we don't leave tiny little gaps for our opponents to beat us in. They need to beat us fair and square, player to player, skill set to skill set. Don't give them easy options like you're dehydrated and they're not, so they beat you based on physiology. Let's skip through. So just skip ahead of this, we're going to get a history lesson. So for me, there's five important areas to look at. Your technical skill, your planning, your fitness, your recovery, and your equipment. Unfortunately, I think it's a bit small in terms of writing for you guys to see, but it expands a little bit. So these are my 5 key areas that we're looking at. Let's shoot ahead to the next slide. So So when we're looking at technical skills, shoot forward again, we've got personal, positional, and team. So Rayhan is very good here, and I'll show you why. And some people are not good here, but very good here, which makes them a much better team player. Other people don't have good team skills, which means that they're better here. Not you, I'm just saying. An example of an individual athlete who is self-motivated, who in a situation, standing in front of another competitor, or standing on a set of blocks and about to dive into water, surrounded by people, doesn't need to look left and right and say, hey guys, are we going to win? Right? He knows, or she knows internally, I am going to win. Right? So individuals who are highly self-motivated end up being very, very good at individual sports. People that work well in a team, know how to get the best out of this person, know what to say to that person. They are very effective at team sports. There are very few people that have all of these skills. So sometimes if you find that you're good at one set of skills, look at sports that are in agreement with those skills. Okay, shoot ahead, shoot ahead. So skills and attributes for a particular sport, I've just covered that. Professionalism, clearly illustrated by Rohan, right? Other kids are running around trying to figure out what's the latest game on their phone, or who's the latest sensation on YouTube. Sometimes to be the best of the best in sports, you need to sacrifice a lot. So that requires a high level of professionalism, a high level of dedication, and a high level of pursuit of excellence. Dad, we're moving town, we're getting rid of all of our friends and our social network and everything that we know, and we're going there. Because I've got to go to Bangalore if I'm going to get the results that I want to. That's a huge amount of commitment. Right, so if we look at positional skills, this moves away from sports like swimming and squash, and it takes us more towards football and cricket and these kinds of things. Some people are great batsmen, some people are great bowlers, some people are great fielders, some people are good at defending, other people are good at attacking. These are all different skill sets that require different physical skill sets, but mental as well, states of mind. Right? So I'm a very good defender. In football, I like to have somebody run at me and then stop them, because that's how my personality and my brain works. Lionel Messi and all these guys, they love having a ball and playing around with defenders and trying to catch them out, right? It's a whole different approach to how you think. So often, if you love sport, love football, but you might not be getting the results that you want as a defender, think about it a little bit deeper, right? Well, what are my skill sets? What do I like doing when I'm playing football? Perhaps I need a positional change. Okay, and then also remember, have the courage to change positions or sports, but have the commitment and the professionalism to stick it out. Because I guarantee you, your first season after changing, you'll know if you go from 200 to 400 or 800, you're going to run horribly, right? Because you've not been training for that. You've got to train your body, you've got to train your mind, you've got to develop experience at doing that specific position or sport, and over a period of time, you get better at it. So that's where the practice element comes in. So don't be afraid to make changes. And finally, team. Okay, if you have a team of superstars, they will not win. Okay, because team needs everybody. Team needs hard workers who put their head down and do the hard yards. Teams need superstars to stand up and take all the glory. And team needs cohesive players to keep the hard workers from getting pissed off with the superstars. Okay, so, and you need coaches who understand that this player is good in this position, and this player is good in this position, and you need captains who know how to get the best results out of all of their people within their team. Right, so this is how dynamics in sport work to get really good results. Let's move on. Okay, so if we look at planning, a lot of us fall down in planning. Okay, we want to win. So what's your plan? I'm just going to train hard. Okay, and if that doesn't work, well, I'm going to train harder. And if that doesn't work, well, I'm going to train even harder. Okay, does that work?
Game plan.
Does that work? No, you need to be smart. about how you go about it, right? You need to have a game plan. So let's look at analysis. We live in an age where wearable technology, video analysis are now very easy to do, right? When I was training and working out, we didn't have any of this stuff. Video analysis was, okay, I think there's going to be somebody with the camera on the side of the field today. Try and play your best. And then I'll speak nicely to them to see if they'll give us a video. Right? These days we can stand there, take a video, we've even got applications that slow that video right down, and we can analyze elements of your performance. We've got wearable technology that measures heart rate and respiration rate and all kinds of metrics. I was in a meeting this morning where they're going to be analyzing crazy data. They're going to be able to take a gait and motion laboratory lab that costs €1 million, and they're going to strap it to your body. In 30 seconds, they're going to tell you 98% of the data that you get from a gait and motion analysis lab anyway. Okay, so that's where we're going in terms of sports analytics and sports science. We are going to have so much awesome analysis data coming in for us to analyze. We need to be able to know how to use that data to get the best performance. I'll give you an example. We were analyzing a sprinter, and we were looking at their peak acceleration. So when they were at the fastest in their 100 meters, we were looking at how much force they were applying into the ground. And this is not an Olympic level athlete, this is a high elite level athlete, but not an Olympic level athlete. They were applying 3,218 newtons of pressure into the ground every step. 320 kilograms of pressure in one step, not two. So that now starts to blow my mind, because I'm thinking, how do we train the strength in their body to be able to change 3,200 newtons to 4,000 newtons? And if he's doing 3,200 newtons, what's Usain Bolt doing? And what kind of training do we need to make this person do to increase their strength? I can't make them do a single leg squat of 320 kilograms, they'll break their leg. Right, so we've got to figure out, this is what is required to perform. How do we adapt and plan to get the results that we need to get? Okay, so video analysis, great option. Looking at technique, working through technique with your coach. Wearable technology to look at your biomechanics and your performance, and being able to have quantifiable data for that. And then decision making. So we're going to make decisions based on science and solid information, other than, well, I think we should do this. Okay, so you're young, you guys are all getting taught to be very smart. My 10-year-old son is much smarter than me all of a sudden. Alright, and his favorite question is why? Because I'm your father. Don't ask me why. Okay, but he's right. If I can't explain to you why, you need to perhaps question whether I know what I'm talking about. Right? That doesn't apply to parenting, by the way. I'm talking about sports science. Okay, parenting, there is no one. So anyway, I think you need to really come up with a great plan. Use your parents, use your coaches. Parents, be mindful when you're interacting with coaches. Coaches are experts. We're there to facilitate a constructive environment and not to be disruptive. Sorry, that's my 2 cents on parents. Okay? Educate yourself well. There's tons and tons and tons of information out there. Coaches don't have the time to be doing all the extensive research that needs to be happening. So facilitate that process. Bring ideas, bring concepts to them all the time. Let them decide what they want to incorporate and what they don't want to incorporate. Okay. Develop a good constructive environment with the coaches. Athletes, let's do the same. You guys love computers. You guys are much better at it than we are. So find out who the athletes are that you want to emulate and do research on them. Study them. Figure out what they're doing. If you spend enough time on YouTube and on Google, you'll find out a lot of really good information. Not too much time, please. Okay, next slide. So periodization is very, very, very important. Our athletes over here who have performed well will tell you that without knowing, you don't rock up at the track today and decide what you're going to do. You know what you're going to do tomorrow. today. You know what you're going to be trying to do in a week from now, in a month from now, and a year from now, and in Olympic athletes 6 years from now. Okay, there's a big plan in place. So I'm not going to tell you too much other than I want you to study this word. Okay, and if you find periodization and it talks about cycling, as in macro cycles, mesocycles, microcycles, you're on the right track. Okay, I'm not going to go into all that detail now. Let's skip over this. So fitness, yay, my favorite. Physical, mental, and psychological. Let's look at physical. Okay, so these are my 9 fundamentals. Joint mobility, muscle flexibility, balance, stability, endurance, strength, speed, power, and agility. Those are the elements of fitness. Fitness doesn't mean I can lift nice weights in the gym and I have a six-pack.
Whose photo is that? Yours?
Yes. You can't see the face, so then it's definitely me. No, I wish it was me. So without good joint mobility, nothing works. Okay, if the joints don't work, everything in the body is designed, except for the brain, every other tissue of the body is designed to make 2 bones, or in some cases more than 2 bones, talk to each other at the same time. That causes joint movement, and that movement moves our body. Okay, so that's why it's number 1 in my list. If you've got joint stiffness, and anybody who's come to see me before knows, I always talk about mobility, mobility, mobility. So if your joints don't move properly, you're in big trouble. Okay. On top of that, your muscles need to be very flexible. You must have good balance and stability, core stability, shoulder stability, rotator cuff, all these kinds of other things that you've heard us talking about. Then you can start looking at things like endurance. Because unless these first 4 are in place, your system doesn't work nicely. There's blockages in the way, and those blockages are going to lead to poor performance or injury. Once the blockages are released and the system is flowing beautifully, now you can make the system not strong, but very efficient at doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. Because he doesn't lose the race in the first 10 meters, he loses it in the last stride for the wall. Yeah, if he loses the race, sometimes he doesn't lose the race. But if he were to lose the race, he only loses it at the very, very, very end. Yeah, that's why I have cameras on the line.
Stamina is required.
Stamina. So move properly, then get good at moving over and over again, and then get good at moving with power. Okay, because in sports we win by being faster. In the water, on the track, on the field. Okay, and speed comes from strength, and then building that strength so it becomes faster and faster and faster, and that's where your speed, power, and agility come from. Okay, so as coaches, especially of young athletes, we spend too much time here. Now I'm attacking the coaches. Okay, so we're going for the top of the pyramid, which is where performance lies. And this is where I come back to the parents and the athletes. Because coaches don't have all the time in the world to spend with you. So your professionalism and your commitment mean that you need to do your stretching, your dynamic warm-up and everything on your own before practice. And when practice is finished, you're going to do all your stretching and your cool down again. It's not your coach's job anymore. Okay, it's your job because they don't have the time to do it. And that frees them up to concentrate on where they know performance comes from. Okay, cool, next slide. Mental fitness, goal setting, focus, visualization. Okay, that's why he has the rings on his back. Okay, because when the going gets tough, my mind gets tough. When the muscles get tight, my mind gets tough. Alright? There's also research. Somebody was explaining it to me yesterday. I don't believe it, but it has a lot of merit and it's actually written, documented research, so I need to get my head around it. A very famous surgeon did surgeries on patients with arthritis in their knees. There was 90 to 100 patients. He knew that there were 2 surgeries for arthritis that work. So 30 of them, he did the one surgery, 30 of them he did the other surgery, and 30 of them he made the cuts in their knee. He jumped around and made a performance, and when it reached 40 minutes, he sewed the cuts back up. And he did it on the patients for 2 years who got what surgery. Do you know what the scary result is? The patients who just had the cuts put in their knee and no surgery did as well as the other 2 groups. That is scary. Alright, what that means is the power of the mind can overcome physical obstacles in the body. Okay, which is a scary, scary, scary thought. So when that man is telling you, I don't care what other people think, he's not letting their opinion pollute his mind. He's keeping this pure, which means this works. Yeah? Affirmation and relaxation. At the end of all of this, let's not get too excited. Sometimes we need to chill out. Sometimes you need to say, Coach, I am super committed. I will do whatever you want me to do, but every now and again, I'm just a bit tired. I just need to go play PlayStation and chill out with my friends. Not often. You can only use that card once or twice. Okay? It's not an every weekend, Friday afternoon discussion. Next. Physiological fitness, blood lactate analysis, urine analysis, muscle biopsy, genetic testing, VO2 max, lactate threshold testing, yada, 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 yada. Don't worry about all that stuff. That, go and speak to the sports scientists, they'll help you with that. Next. Recovery, this is important. Proper cool down after exercise. Rehydrate during, after, and before. Don't be 1% dehydrated. You're being a dumbass. Okay, you're going to compromise your performance and your training, and you perform the way you train. So if you perform suboptimally, if you don't give your best during training, don't expect good results when you compete. It's the same as studying. If you don't study all the material, you're not going to pass the exam with flying colors. Okay, release, myofascial release, foam rolling. Again, that's not your coach's job. It's not your physio's job. It's your job. It's not your mom's job or your dad's job. Mobilize your joints with the stretching protocols. Massage. Okay, so you can get a hold of a good masseuse every now and again and get the deeper, more tricky stuff to get released from your body so that your muscles work properly. Treatment if it's needed, if you have an injury. The universe and time are poor treatment modalities. Okay, don't stick it in a hole and ignore it and hope it gets better. Okay, if it's injured, if it's not performing correctly, deal with it straight away when it's a small problem. Don't let it become a mountain. Okay, ask these guys, they've made that mistake, they know. What keeps me in business? Okay, so be very responsive. The older these guys get, the more experience they get, the sooner they call to say, hey, my muscle twitched. You're like, huh? Shut up. It's fine. Right? But rather, know that it's okay, than wait until you have a proper injury that then means that you can't train for a period of time and you lose your fitness and you lose your momentum and you lose that performance element that gives you the competitive edge. Okay? Next. Okay. Oh. Now the parents are all going to sit up straight. They want to go back to the next slide. So prevention. If it's swollen, ice it and make sure it comes down. Swelling is not a normal thing in the body. Swelling is a response that the body has to something that's not working properly. Okay, so don't ignore it. Lactic acid. If your muscles are full of lactic acid, communicate to your coach. Coach, I'm committed. I want to work hard, but you kicked my backside yesterday. I am super sore. Can we do less intense workout today and focus more on skills development? Can we work on my weak areas maybe and not just pound my body? These are the conversations that you have to have with your coaches. They don't know how much lactic is in your body. They don't know how you're feeling. You need to communicate it. Okay, it's not a one-way conversation. It's a two-way conversation. All right. Delayed onset of muscle stiffness, again, muscle soreness, dehydration, big problem, don't let it happen. So if you go to the toilet and your urine is yellow, the more yellow it is, the more dehydrated you are. Okay, rule of thumb. Make sure it stays very light yellow, very, very light yellow. If you're having muscle spasm, altered muscle tone, that's again an indication to you that the joints are not moving properly and the brain is making some muscles go into spasm to protect the joint from being moved into a range of motion that is dangerous. So muscle spasm is a protective mechanism from your brain. So address the joint mobility and muscle spasm. Don't only massage muscles or put needles in the muscles or put hot packs on the muscles, because that's not fixing the problem, that's the symptom. Alright, and joint stiffness is most important. Make sure your joints are moving properly. Sleep. 8 hours for non-adult population. Okay, so make sure you're getting sleep. And 8 hours is minimum. They say 10 hours, which means less iPad or bed. Okay. Uninterrupted sleep. Consistent sleep. That doesn't mean sleep well for 8 hours tonight and then sleep for 6 hours for the next 6 nights. It doesn't work. It's cumulative. Good mattress and pillow. Okay, big pillows and no pillows are not good for your neck. And yoga mats are good for yogis. But they will hurt your body if you are not loose and supple and fit. Okay, so let's work on these things, guys, because these are the tick boxes. Okay, he's telling you how to do well. Okay, I'm trying to tell you that there's a lot of things that need to be in place to do well. Okay, let's work on these elements. I think that's the last slide, am I right? No, therapy. So there's manual therapy, there's chiropractics, there's osteopathy, there's all kinds of things. There's electrotherapy, but I am not a big fan of electrotherapy. So if you hear of using ultrasound and interferential and diathermy, I'm not big fans of these things. I like to put hands on patients and massage muscle, joint mobilize. Why? Because those are the fundamental things of movement. And if we put a machine that makes a muscle tingle, and if we put a machine that makes a muscle hot, and if we, what's the other one? Use a machine that makes sound waves go into a muscle, these are all things to help the muscle spasm, but the muscle spasm is there because, who's awake? Who's listening? It's protective. The muscle's in spasm because it's protecting the joint. So now you can go to the physio and say, please don't use electrotherapy with me because my joints are restricted and this muscle spasm that you're treating is protective. And I'll be like, what? Okay? So make sure you're getting the right kind of treatment. Stretching, that releases muscle spasm. Joint mobility, that releases muscle spasm. Hydrotherapy, getting in the swimming pool is great. Okay, even if it's cold. Cryotherapy is great because it releases muscle spasm. It causes vasoconstriction, which makes your blood vessels go very tight. And then after they're finished being cold, they open up. And they bring a whole bunch of fresh blood in there. So cryotherapy is really good for regenerating that area with fresh, clean, good blood full of oxygen and nutrients. Okay, and thermal therapy is the opposite. It brings heat, right? And heat brings good blood. So if the area is not swollen and puffy, you can use heat. You can use a hot pack, you can use a jacuzzi, you can have a hot shower or a bath. These are all good ways of encouraging blood flowing in the body. Alright, so I think that's the last slide. One more, equipment. Okay, so let's just use equipment. You must have good footwear. Okay, that means nothing squashing tennis shoes or running shoes. Running shoes are made for running. They've got a very big, thick sole. A lot of them, hopefully they don't, because nowadays we're getting better at understanding foot mechanics. But if you play a sport that you move laterally, make sure you're playing in the right footwear. Tennis shoes, squash shoes have a different kind of sole to running shoes. Okay, they're designed for different purposes. So make sure you're not exposing yourself to needless injury. Correct footwear. If you don't have the correct biomechanics in your feet, okay, get something to help you with insoles for your shoes. Compression wear is very good for recovery, is very good for maintaining swelling. So all kinds of compression wear is very good. Change of clothes. Please don't go home. Luckily, we don't live in the cold climate. But what I hate seeing is people finishing their workouts, sweaty and wet, and going home like that. Getting into an AC cab, getting into your house with AC. Now you've got wet clothes on your body. You're very hot and warm, and this cold air is blowing on you. Does that sound like it's a good idea?
Not at all.
Okay. Then tomorrow you say, Coach, I trained too hard and I got fever. Rubbish. You got fever because you were wearing wet clothes when you should have got out of your exercise clothes, put on clean, dry clothes with a tracksuit if it's needed, and gone home like that. Okay, so let's not be lazy. Let's not leave opportunity for injury and infection to catch us. Okay, wearable technology we've discussed, and first aid we've discussed. I think now I'm done.
Due to time constraint, we'll be taking only one question.
And if we have other questions, maybe we can do it in an email format.
Hi, I have two questions. How quick you are in answering one, and then I will ask another one.
Shoot.
Okay, the first question is, how do you know when to use cold pack or a hot pack?
If there's an injury, use cold. If there's no injury, use hot.
Injury as in swelling is not an
So
injury.
if you haven't, yeah, swelling means there's an injury there. Swelling means that tissues have been pushed beyond their normal environment and they have called through a chemical process other tissues or other kinds of cells to come and do the healing in that area. So if you have an injury, no heat in the first 3 days for sure. Normally, depending on how much swelling is there, that period of time gets much, much longer. So if it's a clear amount of swelling, go and see a health professional because you need that looked at. But that doesn't mean, so your number of days that you treat with ice is very proportional to how much swelling there is.
Okay, that's it. Next question.
Yeah.
A cut is an injury or a cut is not an injury? I mean, I'm just trying to understand what's an injury.
Skin abrasion is not really, that just needs to be treated with disinfectant and bandaged properly. But a cut that goes through the skin and into muscle tissue, that's a different set of, because now you've affected the integrity of the muscle. So then that may need to be treated in a different manner. But don't worry so much immediate icing.
And spasm? Spasm would be the classified one.
What is a spasm?
Muscles out.
It's a protective mechanism. Okay, it's your brain making the muscle go tight. Why? Because it's either protecting the muscle or it's protecting the joint. Okay, in that case you can use either or. Okay, so you can use ice or heat, but it must be a muscle spasm and not an injured muscle.
I move on to the next question.
Guys, I was supposed to be in South by 10:30, that's why. So I'm sorry, it's all my fault that there's not a lot of questions coming. You guys have got all my contact details.
There's no better role model than her. She is a 3-time national champion in the 400-meter sprint, and she's determined to compete in the Olympics one day. I would like to invite on stage Ms. Aisha Moria with her knowledge and experience.
So all the athletes who are sitting here would obviously know that this is the hard part. The easier part is running or playing or training. But what is really hard is standing in front of so many people and talking about how this journey kind of folded into what I'm going to talk about today. So I've known Rehan for really long. Heath was one of my first physios when I was injured. Thanks, Heath, for all the work you put behind me for all these years. Thank you.
If only we could all run like you guys, it would be great.
So because I want them to listen to the story that I went through as a kid, for what I didn't get, and for what I got. My journey as a sportsman, I got at a very late age. I was 24 when I first went to Australia for training. And before that, I was just hovering around at the nationals. Really, I was winning, I was confident, I was happy, but that goal that I had of always being at the Olympics kind of was lingering around. I was not working towards it. And I'm partly to be blamed for it, partly I blame a lot of other people, which I shouldn't have, because I think a lot of competing, training, and winning has to do with you and your mind. And I only got that when I went to Australia when I was 24. This was really late in my sporting career because there were 19 and 20-year-olds who were already at the Olympics. So when I went to Australia, my coach taught me some very important things, and I recently spoke at the World Congress for Mental Health, and I put across these exact same points because I think that as much as how wonderful Rehan's story was, and of course hard work is the only thing that will get you anywhere in life. What he said also plays a very big role in how my life has now shaped into. But what I'm going to speak about now is education, mindfulness, self-awareness, motivation, discipline and consistency, the F word, which is one of my favorites, which I'll get to you all, and the fool yourself factor. So I'm going to read out a few pointers that I wrote out, and hopefully the children who are sitting in this room, which are all these kids about 12 years old? Are all children about 12? No? Okay, but I believe that even the 10-year-olds are really smart, because I train children and I know that they're so much more smarter than what we used to be at 11 and 12. So I'm going to start with education. I believe that one of the key factors in bringing about change is our mindset. I'm not talking about our school, college, or MBA graduate degrees. But most institutions fail to understand that as much as education is important, it is also important that we give our children fitness education. Through 20 years of my own experience, I've come to understand that the most depressed, the most suicidal, and the highest number of drug addicts are from highly educated backgrounds. Giving a child education about good health, right eating habits, and making them understand the importance of being fit is the need of our hour. I believe that the child has the full right to play or pursue the sport that he or she wishes to pursue, without any pressure from family or their peers. The need for educating our child in fitness at a young age is because that this is the only time that we set a good base, not just physically, but mentally as well. My second topic is self-awareness. I spoke about education first because once the person has been given the right knowledge or guidance, will they start understanding the importance of awareness. Self-awareness, knowing what is wrong, why it's wrong, what's wrong, I don't feel up to it, I can't do it, why can't I do it? I have come across these questions several times in my own career and with the students that I train today. The harsh truth is that motivation only comes from within. I was fortunate enough to train under a coach and physio who was also an Olympic representative at the 2000 Sydney Olympics by the name of Khar Gymkhana in Australia from the year 2010 to 2014. What I needed most was not physical training to get to the Olympics, but the mind training. And that is exactly what Rehan said when he went into a really big competition to qualify for the Olympics. He was not mentally prepared for it. And that is something we Indian athletes lack a lot. Back then I did not agree with Gavin's way of training. My determined yet stubborn mind had not seen the light of hard training and serious competition. He had broken me down. I would cry. I would cry to a point that I wanted to go back home to India. I always believed that I was training hard with my national champion status and I was ready to go international. Unfortunately, I wasn't even well prepared to run with the state level athletes in Australia. What I wanted to share with you here is what sort of breakdown he took me through in those 4 years. As a human tendency, we tend to give up if we get tired or if we fail. When something is not going our way, it's easier to stop than to break through that barrier. He taught me how to never give up. If something was hard, he made it harder for me to accomplish. The trick was that the human mind is capable of achieving anything that you feed it. If you feed it faith, it will help you cross the finish line with that solid, strong faith. My constant whining and complaining bug, which I feel us Indians, and I hate to be so vocal about it, but I have seen through my students, I've seen people who are doing marathon training, the complaining bug, the whining is constant. And I always feel so grateful that we have so much with us. We've got a good pair of shoes, we've got good gear, we've got great food, we have great family support, yet we continue to whine and crib about things that matter little or nothing. There was a point where he came into my training career and he said that if you wish to complain, your only other option is to stop running and go back home. When I stopped complaining, I realized how much more I achieved than how much I used to complain before. The human body, which most of us have little or no understanding about how it functions whilst we're in a state of physical activity, which is why he gave us so many of those things about training, rest, recovery, mobility, stretching, why these things are part, why it's important for you to know what you're doing when you're training. Anytime I was not training with him, he made me study the human anatomy. This part of my education played a key role in why and how I understood the sport and my fitness-related activities today. I'm coming to two of my very favorite topics. One of it is called the herd. I believe that we as a country are a part of this herd, and I think that we are breaking through it, but a huge part of where I see it from as a coach is just that we are a cattle and we want to do everything that everyone else is doing. It was a very bitter truth that I had to see from a third person view, but what Gavin used to teach me was to be a thinking athlete, and this is what I want our children to remember, that you want to be leaders. You don't want to be followers. You want to think for yourself. Your coach and your mentors and your parents are here to guide you, but you have a mind of your own, which is extremely strong, and it is your choice of what you want to do, how you want to overcome things. So don't let anyone push you into that cattle, because you only know what you want to achieve and how far you can achieve it. Okay? And the last one is the fool yourself factor. This was a very interesting story he told me, because I kept thinking, oh, I was so fast in all my national media. It was just, I was at the top and he said, you're really fooling yourself. And I said, what do you mean? I'm fast, I'm quick. But he said that, remember, if you stand in an Olympic stadium in a track of 8 lanes, there are 7 other athletes and then there's you. You can fool 7 other athletes and 50,000 people in the stadium and tell them that you're fit, but if you're not, you're going to be fooling yourself. So don't go around fooling other people if you're not confident enough yourself. Today we use social media platforms to tell the world how good we are. If you aren't good enough, you don't need to portray. You need to be confident here to portray out on that track, or in the pool, or on the court, how good you are. For me, meditation played a very, very important role right from a very young age, and I like to encourage children to do this because it is a very simple and easy tool. It is a 5,000-year-old art form called yoga, and my understanding of meditation is very different from how the world really likes to see it. So people find their meditation in walking their dog, listening to music, or going for a run. To me, meditation is by far just sitting still and finding that absolute bliss moment of doing nothing. To me, in that state of nothingness is where I like to meditate, which I then take into my sport. Again, I'm speaking to my experience of many years of in this field of sport, that there is very little or no mindfulness. This comes hand in hand with self-awareness. The more you bring that awareness to yourself, and the more you are in tune with your mind, that is when you will start looking inward. That is when you will start to understand that sport, running, or just being fit is about yourself and not about the world of pleasing your family or your friends. Sport, just like meditation, is an inward journey. The more you understand yourself, the clearer your mind gets. The clearer your mind gets, the fitter your body will become. Coming to discipline and consistency, And I'd like to say that as much as disciplined as we used to be back then, I don't see that sort of discipline happening in today's generation. And I think this would be more for our parents to see, because my parents played a huge role in building me up into being this athlete who I am today. It was their discipline and their dedication that they put behind me day after day. School to tuition, tuition to training, training home, next day same routine for almost 10 years of my life. And that was the reason why we progressed, because our parents had a huge role of discipline to play in our life. So I became disciplined and we had that consistent routine all the time. To me, discipline and consistency is about how badly you want to achieve your goals. To some, discipline is just about following a strict routine, and to some, discipline just stops with an alarm clock. I was taught that if you wish to be a successful person in life, these two tools will have to live with you, just like your breathing. It is something we don't teach our children, and it is what this generation lacks, and it is the reason why people have lost respect for the things that come to them so easily. Just like meditation, this comes from within. Discipline is a self-practice. Children, I hope you are listening. Half of you are looking at me. I'm watching. I'm a very strict teacher. I teach children between the age of 10 and 15, and I know how little your attention span is. But this is where we need to work as coaches, athletes, and parents to bring their attention, to make them understand that, hey, it's not compulsory, it's not a chore. You don't have to do it. You just have to love to do it, right? It's about you. It's you versus you. It's not you versus parents. It's not you versus the time. It's just you versus your own goal, your own credits, your own passion. Okay. Now I'm coming to the F word. Can somebody tell me what the F word would mean in sport or in life? She read my speech before that. Okay, so the F word, I have two F words which I tend to not use too much because too much of this was put into my life at a very young age. Fear and failure. Fear because when I said I had this dream and I aspired to be an Olympic athlete, my coaches used to mock me. And failure, each time I failed, they used to laugh at me. So they would say, ha, you want to win the Olympics, but you can't even get back to winning the nationals. So these were the two words I used to absolutely hate. When I eradicated these two words out of my dictionary, I realized how much I could conquer, and how much I could achieve without these two. So failure, in simple words, I want to call them pitfalls. And fear has two meanings. It means false emotion appearing real, or just forget everything and die. Yeah, that's just easier than false emotions. And I had repeated pitfalls only to realize that none of these were actually failures. They were just learning lessons. They are what I am today, so don't instill the fear of failure into your future. Fear. I have a 3-year-old niece who I watch very carefully as she's growing up right now, and I see her having no fear. I had read somewhere that children are fearless. They only pick up on the fears that their adults deny. True, I picked up my parents' fears and lived with them for years, only to realize that these fears weren't mine. So why was I even living with them? Coming back to our first topic of education, this is where we give them the confidence to do things without putting fear into them. What is even more important is how to help somebody overcome their fears. Talking, listening, guiding, tapping into their core problem and not just your superficial motivation. I believe that we're an extremely talented and progressive nation. The youth of today, some of you are sitting here, Isabel being one of them, since I've seen her running, she runs beautifully. The youth of today is much wiser and smarter than what we were at 17, and I would like to end this by saying that there is no doubt that India is capable of winning several medals at the Olympic standard, and all we have to do is change our mindset. Blaming our federations, the corrupt official system will always be around, but that is not our solution or a reason to give up on our goals. I can tell you from a very personal experience, and Rehan would resonate with this, that there is no better joy of living your passion, waking up with that fire in your belly, day after day, wanting to achieve your goal. So parents, give your children freedom and the confidence. Kids, go out there, achieve your dreams. Don't worry if you don't make it to the Olympics. What is the most important thing is how your journey pans through, even if you don't make it. And I think that is your Olympic journey, or your national journey, or your Wimbledon journey. Yeah. So just go out there passionately, love it, do it without fear. It's good to have butterflies in your stomach when you're competing, but it's also very important to go out fearless and break your record. Good luck.
We actually have a question from our live stream, so before we ask you that. He asked, if you run 10 kilometers a day, can it reduce your muscle strength?
This depends on how somebody's training is, how you structure your training. Because again, I started doing long distance running for the last 2 years ever since I suffered an Achilles surgery. And I realized that people are, like I said, the herd. People are just running aimlessly because, oh, let's do it because, oh, she can do 10K, I can do 10K. Yes, you can do. Everyone can run. We all want to run. And we all need to have a certain kind of structure to our training pattern, which unfortunately people don't have. So yes, if you continue just running, you are going to lose a lot of muscle mass, you're going to lose muscle strength. But if you have a good structure to your training, and you have enough strength to take you through that 10 kilometers without losing muscle mass or strength. Any questions?
Are you a distance runner or short distance runner?
I was a sprinter. I am now doing long distance running, and
long means 21?
10 days long. Okay. That's my 42K marathon. It's as good as a full marathon. Also, AC is really bad for athletes.
You wanted to be reduced, huh? AC band karte. Okay, for 10 kilometers, I see a body structure, the legs, they have to be very muscular.
For a 10K?
Yeah.
No, you're more lean.
No, for long distance, 21-42, that lean muscles are
only as a sprinter.
Your muscles are only as a sprinter, that's right. You have very big muscles.
So when you were a sprinter,
no, I've always been lean.
200, 400 will be sprinter only?
Yes, but I've always been a lean athlete.
So it helps you or it?
I don't think the physical aspect of how you look changes how fast you run.
Because when we see the Olympians running, oh, they are shaking, the muscles are just big.
I didn't do drugs.
Thank you so much for your amazing time.
Our next speaker for the day is Mr. Daniel Mars. He's a certified strength and conditioning specialist. When it comes to marathons or marathon training, there are only a few who are close to Daniel Mars. Daniel Mars has been training runners for over 12 years. He's the head coach of 90 Plus Run Club and a lecturer at the Exercise and Science Academy. Mr. Mars has completed 36 full marathons and 2 ultra marathons of 15K. Mars will be throwing light on topics like overtraining and its danger, domains of fitness, and functional training. May I please invite on stage Mr.
Oh. Good morning everyone. Thank you to the Moment of Joy organizers. What I'm going to do is make this as interesting as possible for you and let you know that as a strength and conditioning coach, our job is to be an interface between the coach who imparts technical skills to the athlete and what the athlete needs in terms of identifying both strengths and weaknesses in the musculoskeletal anatomy of the athlete. So, which is very imperative and fundamental to the athletes being able to succeed or enhance his or her skills. Okay, so
next slide please. The strength and conditioning coach's job is to identify movements in the athlete. Identify those movements, find out what muscles are activated and needed to enhance the skills in those movements, and target a program to do this along with the coach. Okay? So, next slide. It's part of functional training. It says, okay. Functional training is a training program built around actions that occur in your sport. All of the actions that you need as an athlete in whatever it is, there is something called a movement analysis. Now, as a strength and conditioning coach, we have available a database where we can use how to analyze movements. And I'll just show you briefly because we need to go through this quickly. So, if you were to identify, let's say, squash as a sport, I deliberately took that because I know there is an audience with squash, and you have a squash backhand, let's say, and you need to identify what are the body actions that can come to make the squash backhand effective. There are many of them. I'm going to use just one of them called the wrist extension. If we look at details, we look at wrist extension as this. This is what the strength and conditioning coach would do. Now, if the wrist extension is there, what are the exercises that can enhance this? So, you can have, let's say, the wrist curls with a barbell. And then, you identify what exactly you need to do this. So, this is just brief for you. There are several hundred, probably 1,000 different activities which are listed here. Surfing, surf paddling, swimming, freestyle, butterfly, all of these body actions are what the strength and conditioning coach would use. Okay?
How to go to this side?
What site is that? This is software which is available with the strength and conditioning coach. He works on it very specifically when he works with the skilled coach and his athlete. And they talk internally and find out what exactly is the weakness for this athlete, whether it's the backhand, whether it's the forehand, whether the athlete is not able to jump high enough in a volleyball sport, not able to jump high enough to smash in, let's say, badminton. The whole domain of athletics is covered by the strength and conditioning.
Google search?
No. Okay, let's move forward. So, as I said, showing movement analysis, this is what we would be able to do. Next one. As a runner, as a marathon runner, we also have something called gait analysis. We know that an athlete, when he comes forward, lands on one foot, it's called the stance phase, moves on to the next, he's floating, both feet are off the ground, he lands after the swing and then takes off again. So this movement analysis helps us to analyze an athlete's gait as a sprinter, as a long distance runner, and find out weaknesses in that. So, once you've done movement analysis, the job of the strength and conditioning coach is to find out what are the needs, just like what Keith Matthews had stated. Flexibility, mobility, strength, power, muscular endurance, anaerobic energy systems. I'll just tell you briefly about these as we go along. Next one. Factors to improve athletic ability. You need to develop force. You need to develop force in a short time if you need to develop power. So there is a domain of either pure strength or pure power. And that domain, and in between all of them lie what you as an athlete need. Okay? So there are different types of muscles. The muscles which are there are called as type 1, type 2A and type 2X. The type 2X muscles are the ones which give you a lean muscular body structure. Type 1 makes you into an endurance athlete, very lean, very thin, just like what you see the Ethiopians and the Kenyans. And that spectrum is what we work with. Type 1 produces the least power because it's not able to generate enough force. Type 2X generates the highest power. So your body genetically will define whether you are fit to be an endurance athlete or whether you are fit to be an athlete with greater power, force, bodybuilding or a sprinter, it is genetically defined in you. This is what I was talking about, rate of force development. On the extreme left is pure strength, which means that the velocity is 0 and you generate a maximum force, which would be like a squat with a barbell. If you were just to squat down and move up, there's not much velocity involved in it. It's pure strength. At the other end, and in between, you have all the other domains. As you keep moving with a greater velocity, the force will come down. You cannot take a large barbell and move at a high velocity. The force has to come down. Once the force comes down, you get more velocity. So this is the domain in which an athlete can work. We have to find out where the athlete needs us. Whether he wants extreme power, whether he wants just pure force, or whether, like in sprinting, it's just minimal force but highest velocity. Okay? This is the model of periodization which Matthew spoke about. What we do is, in a season for an athlete, we take different phases, 10 weeks, next 10 weeks, next 12 weeks, what exactly we want to do. Okay? So, in the first phase of an athlete, he focuses on doing a very high volume and low intensity of work. This is the time when the athlete has to spend in tackling all the weaknesses, what exactly they need to do, whether they need to focus on strength, whether they need to focus on speed. Technique and skill comes somewhere later, but in the periodization model, you will first focus on developing appropriate strength, appropriate power. Next one. So, pure strength training is very essential for an athlete, because if you do not have pure strength, you cannot generate the necessary forces required to succeed in your athletic ability. If you're a squash player, if you're a sprinter, if you're a badminton player, if you're a tennis player, there are different types of strength that you need. Basic strength is the first one out of them. You need to develop enough force in your legs to be able to move effectively and fast. This is power training. Power training is when you want to move with a weight but move fast. And power training is very essential. For example, a volleyball player, you need to jump up to either be able to defend a smash or to smash. Correct? If you are not able to jump up, you won't be able to effectively work as an athlete in that domain. So you need to develop power. So there are power training programs which a strength and conditioning coach would work specifically for you as an athlete to develop power. It is different from the skill that you need to play for your volleyball smash. But if you cannot elevate yourself, move your own body weight up by 1 to 1.5 feet off the ground, you cannot succeed in that. Plyometrics, I would say one of the most important domains in terms of being an athlete. If you cannot jump effectively and move rapidly with these jumping actions, you will not be able to succeed as an athlete. So I'll just quickly show you, to make it interesting for you, some videos. Yeah, do that. I just have to quickly go through it. 1 second. Okay?
Alternate lower body exercises and upper body exercises.
This is the domain of strength and conditioning coach, to get you to be able to do these exercises and generate enough power.
Plyometric routines. We have all your members as quickly as we can over the minute.
These are explosive push-ups. This helps you to be able to move on the court. If you cannot do these exercises, you will not be able to effectively move on the court.
You can see that demonstrated. After we do these lower body exercises again, we're going to move to an upper body exercise. And the next upper body exercise we're going to do is called medicine ball sprawl. The medicine ball sprawl is a great explosive exercise. Back up on the box and back to where you started, and then all the way over the box.
Okay.
exercise is great for your agility and your ability to kind of problem solve.
Okay, so there is coming to agility. So what I showed you was basically actions in the domain of sport which you need to train for. They are going to be part of the movements that you will actually take in your sport. Okay, these jumping actions. Hill running is another way to develop great strength in the legs. These are the technical aspects of why adaptation to speed and power training will help you. Okay. Go to the next slide. Okay, what I need to leave you with is two things. One of them which Keith emphasized is about your hydration, and the other is about your carbohydrate intake. As an athlete, you must make sure that you time your carbohydrate intake in a way where you do not get depleted of what we call as glycogen. Okay, those two are going to affect you greatly in terms of the execution of your sport. You will tire quickly, both if you are dehydrated as well as if your glycogen depleted. Go ahead. Yeah. This slide is important for you to understand as an athlete that when you train, you are going to be working with a kind of a stimulus. When that stimulus is received by your body has to adapt to it. If it adapts to it, we call that as the resistance stage, and your body then goes to the next level and adapted to it. If you give this stimulus repeatedly without adapting to it, you go to what is called as the exhaustion stage, which can happen to almost any athlete. If you are not careful about how much of stimulus you receive and whether your body is adapted, you can go into what is called as the overtraining zone. Once you've moved into the overtraining zone, it's very difficult. You need at least 3 to 6 weeks to come back to your sport and train again. This is what I meant as glycogen depletion. As the intensity of your sport, of your effort level goes up, the amount of carbohydrate in your body gets depleted. If the effort level is less, it remains steady for a long period of time, up to 2 hours, 3 hours. If the effort level is high, you can get it depleted within 80 to 90 minutes. And you have to, as a coach and as a strength and conditioning coach, we need to make sure that you are taking in adequate fluid in terms of nutrition as well as plain water for hydrating. So this is what, if you have 2% dehydration, your thermoregulatory ability of the body goes down, you will have performance impairment. You have to make sure that you are well hydrated. The clinical indicator of an athlete, whether he is strong or overtrained, is the resting heart rate. If you take your resting heart rate in the morning, first thing before you get out of bed, it's a good indicator of whether you are well rested and strong enough to train for that day. If you keep track of your resting heart rate, the day it is higher by 10 to 15% from the normal, you know that that's not a good day for you to train hard.
Normal is 60-80.
Normal can be for an endurance runner, a marathon runner can be 45. For a half marathon runner can be in the region of 55 to 58. Most trained athletes have a heart rate which is resting in the region of 50 to 55. And if it goes to 60, 62, 63, you know that there's something wrong. Either sleep deprivation, stress levels, or just plain illness setting in. So these are indicators of overtraining, elevated resting heart rates, exhaustion, lethargy, weight loss, appetite loss, intolerance to exercise, psychological signs of fatigue, reduced ability to concentrate. This is not running, so I work a lot with athletes who are training for long distances. That's it. Thank you.
A question.
Can you do marathon on a keto diet?
It would be wrong to do it because you would first of all deplete your glycogen stores. The moment you stop taking enough carbohydrate, you are going to be depleting your glycogen stores, which is primarily the glucose content that you need to power your run. The moment you have low blood sugar, your race will get compromised. So a keto diet is not a very good idea for a long distance athlete.
But suppose you've been on a keto diet for a long period of time, then you're not necessarily burning sugar for energy.
You're burning fat.
And then, if I see that my fat doesn't deplete, my intake of fat is high. By fat, I mean ghee, cold-pressed coconut oil, I mean olive oil.
Yes.
You know, so today's studies show that most ultra-marathoners in the world are on keto diets and not on sugar diets, because it's proven that after 90 minutes, you cannot function efficiently on a carbohydrate diet. The people who are doing the winners of ultra-marathons are all into keto.
The key word here is the ultra-marathon, where you want to run distances of anywhere between 50 kilometers and 160 kilometers, the 100-miler. In these domains, you don't largely work with glycogen. It is up to the 42-kilometer marathon where glycogen is primary, because you need an edge in terms of your speed. But the moment you bring down your speed and want to run for 6, 8, 12, there are 24 hours races and 36-hour races, you don't talk about carbohydrate. You just talk about fat burning. A keto diet is a good idea if you've trained with it.
Just a week away from full marathon, what do you suggest the diet should be now for last year?
For the 4 days before your race, if you are doing a full marathon, you need to focus on largely taking in carbohydrates. 70% of your meal composition should be carbohydrates. They should be complex carbohydrates. By complex carbohydrates, I mean stop eating white bread, white rice, too much of sweet, which is easily gives you a blood sugar spike. Use complex carbohydrates like vegetables, brown bread, whole grain bread, atta rotis, and stuff like that. So 70% of your diet has to be carbohydrate. Starting Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if you're doing the full marathon. If you're doing the half marathon, just one day, Saturday is enough for you to do that.
And fruit, what about banana in particular?
It will help because it has content of potassium, which is going to be good for you. You will at least be able to stop cramps from setting in, because potassium is the main culprit for cramps. Bananas and fruits are carbohydrates. They're complex carbohydrates, so it's a good idea to eat them.
What is the right age for children to start weight training?
Right?
Right age for children to start weight training?
Okay, it all depends on the sport. I would say that the coach has to work in a way where he identifies there is pre-pubertal and post-pubertal. Pre-pubertal, since the bones are still growing, you have to be careful in terms of, you can still start weight training, but you have to be careful with the amount of weight. You have to be careful in power programs like the plyometrics which I showed you, the jumping actions. They can cause problems to the bone plate, as we call it, for the growth of the child. It can be done, but it needs to be done under supervision. You can start it even at the age of 10.
And how easy or difficult it is to motivate children to do that at that age?
It depends on the sport. If the child is convinced that something is good and is going to enhance the movement in the sport, the child will do it. And if you make the program interesting, strength training by itself is an interesting prospect even for a child. If you take the child to the gym and make them do that, and then they see that on the field when they are executing the athletic movements, there's a great improvement, enhancement in it, they will do it.
But to be careful of damaging the growth plates, tell them that's all.
Yes. Yeah, there is a risk of damaging the growth plates, but you need to work, as I said, very closely.
Otherwise, there's no problem.
Thank you so much. We would like to present you with the token of our we would like to introduce our final speaker for Coast to Coast 2, the renowned Indian squash coach, Mr. Cyrus Poncha. The 2005 Dronacharya Awardee has been working hard and doing everything in his control to enhance the development and awareness of squash in India. In early 2017, he was nominated amongst 13 others across 7 different countries for the Asian Squash Federation Coach of the Year award. Along with many tournaments, the success of the Indian squash team at the South Asian Games held in February, where our players won 3 gold medals and 1 bronze medal, is due to his guidance. So may I please invite on stage Mr. Cyrus Poncha.
Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I know it's been a long couple of hours though. I do consider myself a very privileged person, as I play for a living. In India, not many people, especially going with their passion in life, they are bogged down with the norms and become accountants, lawyers, doctors. I was very fortunate. In 1980, when I was 4 years old, I was in the hands of the greatest. Yes, this is the great Muhammad Ali, the greatest boxer in the 20th century. But that was not the reason for me taking up sport. There are numerous reasons people take up sports. Social reasons, some to get fit, some are forced into it, and for some, it opens the doors to getting US international college university degrees. On the other hand, there are a few who at a young age decide they want to pursue squash or sports in general. Both are leading ladies in squash. Joshna Chinappa and Deepa Palikar started young. I remember Joshna as a 10-year-old girl running around the MCC club in Madras, and she was very clear. She said, I want to be a full-time squash player at that age. Believe me, I have heard hundreds of players over the past 2 decades who have said this. Unfortunately, only a few percent have actually gone full-time. Deepika Palikar also was a very talented junior, but she was driven by her mother. Her mother played cricket for India. Her mother was very clear that she wanted her to be a professional squash player. Both these girls have now gone on to be top 10 in the world, Commonwealth Games gold medalists, and they are the faces of Indian squash. Parents play a very vital role in a child's development. Most of the time, they bring out the best, as we heard earlier. But there are times they bring out the worst in a child. Parents, please note, we want you to be parents, to love and support your child in their highs and lows, especially when they are down and out. As for me, I had no parental or family playing professional sport. Absolutely no inclination or dream of being a sportsman, but it just happened. Like every youngster, especially in Bombay as I grew up over here, I used to play round ball cricket, gully cricket as we call it. Then at the age of 12, there was a squash summer camp at the Otters Club, which my brother told me, why don't you join? And that's the way it happened. As a junior, I enjoyed the game, loved playing. I used to have a lot of fun. And I took advantage. I got to miss school, I got to miss college, and I enjoyed it. As you will figure, I didn't like to study much. So one thing led to another, and at the age of 18, I started helping juniors in a junior program at the Otters Club, at the Willingdon Club, and that's what kicked me into, that's my journey into squash coaching. Sports, among anything else, it has numerous benefits. For one, being a better human being. It keeps you healthy, it keeps you disciplined, and gives you a holistic outlook to life. Being exposed to high pressure situations with the need to make split-second decisions helps a sportsman become decisive and at a young age get a good experience which will help you in your future life. Sports also does help you to study better. I had an athlete who was dyslexic, and it helped her to focus, channelize her studies, and even a lot of athletes come to play squash before an exam, on the same day of an exam. It helps them to relax. Sports helps you to plan, strategize, and importantly, makes you to learn victories and defeats. Travel makes you independent, and it makes you aware of the world around us. And for those non-professional sportsmen, above all, it helps them in their career. So, what started as a summer activity during my holidays has now turned into my profession. Even today, I'm often asked, like I was this morning, is that your real job? What is your full-time job? I work 12 hours a day. I wonder, do I need to work longer hours to be considered full-time? But this is not a problem with the general public. Even my mother, when was asked, what does your son do? She used to wonder what to reply. And I have had the hardest time when my potential father-in-law, who was a solicitor, and his daughter, a chartered accountant, asked me, do you really play squash the full day? Life as a professional sportsman has never been easy. It's not a fairy tale or a bed of roses, as we heard Rehan's story as well. But it's a saga of toil, sweat, highs, lows, pain, tears, emotions, but above all, commitment, dedication, and devotion. Today, most athletes start young. Tiger Woods started at 2. The great Diego Maradona started at 3. Venus Williams has started at 4. But all their performances eventually are built on solid foundation and sustained hard work. The most successful squash player in the modern era is Nicole Daly. 109 months consecutively world #1. That's 9 years without a gap. Without a month, she was 9 years world #1. I wish she was Indian. She's father is half Indian. I saw her in Penang at the age of 9. She was sitting outside the court waiting to get on for a game. At that time, not many people used to play with her. She was sitting out waiting and studying. Yes, studies is a very important aspect in the life of a teenager who wishes to play professional sport. Some players do very well, and those who do well are known to do well. Those who do well in the classroom are known to do well on the sports field as well. But there are exceptions to that rule. One day in Chennai, Saurabh Ghoshal came in for training, very, very dejected. And I asked him, what happened? He just got his 12 standard results. He said, I got 98.4. I said, that's bloody good. I needed the 99. A few minutes later, Joshna walks in. I passed. So that's the difference in what they wanted to do. The first thing that stands out and is the difference between social and serious sportsmen is the level of sacrifice that one has to make. We miss out on opportunity at work, time with the family and friends, and not being able to just eat whatever we want. In some cases, as many parents will agree, family holidays are centered around sportspersons' events. And in my case, as I travel as coach, I miss my children's birthdays, activities in schools, festivals, New Year's because of the British Junior Open, and most importantly, my wedding anniversary. In return, I get a massive shopping list. That's the price I have to pay. As for the athletes, most importantly, it's the physical sacrifice. The continual on-field training, sessions in gym, and whatever it takes its toll. Injury has never been easy, and as we saw, a player's career from 1 week to 1 month to 1 year or more can get affected. We had a player, Joshna, who had an ACL tear injury. Fortunately, she's come very strong from it. But before that happened, she used to come for training in Chennai, and I used to say, warm up, like I do to everybody because they need to be told 500 times. She said, it's so hot. I was in my car, I kept the windows up and I didn't switch on the AC. I'm warmed up. She's learned. And today, before every session, she stretches for half an hour. So please, young players, please learn and do it. Failure, the F word, to reach goals is something really hard to take. And it's not easy to get to the top. Michael Jordan, over here in this slide, explains how he had to miss 9,000 shots and lost over 300 games. But that's what made him stronger, the constant practice. A sportsperson's worst enemies are negative talk. I'm not good enough. What is the point of working hard? The whole world is against me. And then the temptation to quit. We must learn to turn our negatives to positives. It's important to reward oneself, albeit a small reward. Whenever you succeed, you must reward yourself. That's what will keep you going strong. For those who reach the top, there is glory and fame. Success in some sports is guaranteed, because today there is a lot of money in sports, a lot of commercial endorsements. If only I was a cricket coach or a football coach, it would have been better. But why am I a coach? I believe no player can do it by themselves. I wake up every morning with a zillions of thoughts in my mind. What can I do better for a player? And what can I do for our sport at large? And our roles as coaches are endless. We've got 6.67 points mentioned over here, but it does not say, as a coach, we need to be a dictator, we need to be a bag carrier, we need to be a bottle washer, but very importantly also, we need to be a shoulder to be cried on. Coaching is an art and science. We can be scientific in our training, but there is no one fixed solution for all. Dealing with every athlete is an art. As mentioned, people want to know how much you care. And this is something, as coaches, we've got to be very strong about and have that relationship with your player. This is called guided discovery. How do I keep players motivated? That's my little secret, but I will share. It's by knowing what the players are thinking about, what's their goal, and listening to them very carefully, and making them believe that what they are doing is possible. The toughest times for coaches are when the player is down. As a coach, we must be able to show them the light. We must be able to make them realize that they have the capacity and the ability to reach their goals. We must also make them believe that we are with them on their journey. A journey of a sportsman need not end with an active career. The doors are open. Rehan has gone into another sport. You can get into administration, you can get into coaching, or get into research. Lord Sebastian Coe is working with the top British athlete, is working with the British Olympic Committee. The great footballer Pelé was a minister in Brazil. And now in India itself, we've got Colonel Rajvendra Singh Rathore as our sports minister. So there is no knowing where our journey as a sportsman can take us. But one thing is for sure, a career in sports can be as fulfilling as something to cherish forever. So for all you parents of budding sports persons, please support your child and be a parent to them. For all the aspiring sportsmen, this is what Rehan had said about. You need to work very, very hard. Dream big, as every dream is worthwhile. Winners are not born, they are made. Winning is a habit. And finally, love what you are doing. It will give you your moment of joy.
Do we have any questions?
Sorry, the slide was very tiny. I want to see your views on those 10 tips for parents.
Yes.
If there's anything in that, that's...
All of it.
All of that.
Can we make it bigger?
I can't read it all.
Would you like me to read it out?
Yeah, it's better if you
focus on that. So, we want to go one by one, but the key is, the first one is focus on the process, not the result. You can stop me anywhere if you need it. Avoid pressurizing a child about winning and losing. So it's the process. Help your child to separate sports failure from personal failure. Give your child freedom to problem solve and make their own decisions. Encourage, encourage, encourage. Allow your child